As the darkness wraps around you and the weight of your eyelids grows, you would have heard the soft lapping of waves against the shore or the distant crackle of a fire had you been standing in medieval Europe, where the forces of nature were often called upon to decide the fate of the accused. It was a time when the elements were believed to hold the power to reveal the truth, and the ordeals by fire and water were the ultimate tests of guilt or innocence. I always come back to this one, the way the elements were unleashed upon the accused, a somber reminder of the darkness that lies within human history. The practice of trial by ordeal, as it was known, dates back to the early Middle Ages, where it was deeply rooted in superstition and the belief that God would intervene to protect the innocent. Those accused of a crime would be subjected to a series of gruesome tests designed to push their bodies to the limit and beyond. The ordeal by fire, for example, involved walking barefoot over hot coals or carrying a heated iron bar for a certain distance. If the accused emerged unscathed, they were deemed innocent, but if they suffered burns or injuries, it was seen as a sign of their guilt. The ordeal by water, on the other hand, was just as unforgiving. The accused would be bound and thrown into a river or a lake, where they would sink or swim, depending on their innocence. If they sank, they were considered guilty, and their bodies would be retrieved from the depths, a grim reminder of the power of the elements. But if they floated, it was seen as a sign that they were telling the truth, and they would be pulled to safety, their bodies exhausted, but their spirits unbroken. The use of these ordeals continued well into the 12th century, a dark reminder of the brutal justice that once prevailed, a time when the forces of nature were wielded like a sword to decide the fate of the accused. As the darkness closes in around you, the sound of the waves or the crackle of the fire fades into the distance, leaving only the somber echo of a long-forgotten era. As you sink deeper into the darkness, the shadows of the past begin to stir, whispering tales of a time when the pursuit of truth was a perilous and often deadly endeavor. I always come back to this one, the ordeals by fire and water, a gruesome yet fascinating aspect of medieval justice. In the dimly lit chambers of the Inquisition, the accused would face a terrifying prospect. To prove their innocence, they would have to submit to trials that would test their endurance, their faith, and their very will to live. The ordeal by water, also known as the swimming test, was a particularly cruel contrivance where the accused would be bound and thrown into a river or a lake, their fate hanging precariously in the balance. If they sank, they were deemed innocent, but if they floated, they were guilty, for it was believed that the pure would be accepted by the water, while the impure would be rejected. The ordeal by fire, on the other hand, was an even more horrific spectacle, where the accused would have to walk barefoot over hot coals or hold a red-hot iron in their hand, their skin searing with each passing moment. The pain must have been excruciating, the smell of burning flesh hanging heavy in the air, as the onlookers watched with a mixture of morbid fascination and pious conviction. You would have heard the screams of the accused, the murmurs of the crowd, the solemn pronouncements of the inquisitors, as they sought to unravel the tangled threads of guilt and innocence. The darkness seems to closing in, the shadows deepening, as we explore the twisted labyrinth of the Inquisition's logic, where the pursuit of truth was often a mere pretext for the exercise of power, and the lines between justice and cruelty were blurred beyond recognition. The waters of the ordeal seem to be swirling around us, pulling us down into the depths of a long-forgotten era, where the sound of dripping water, the creaking of old wooden beams, and the faint whisper of forgotten prayers are the only reminders of a time when the boundaries between reality and nightmare were constantly shifting. As you sink deeper into the darkness, the shadows of the past begin to take shape, and the silence is slowly filled with the whispers of a long-forgotten era, an era where the lines between guilt and innocence were drawn with fire and water. I always come back to this one, the trial by fire, a method so primal, so rooted in the human psyche, that it's almost mesmerizing to consider the logic behind it. The idea was simple. If you were innocent, God would protect you from the flames, and if you were guilty, well, the fire would consume you, purifying your soul in the process. You would have heard the screams of those forced to walk on hot coals, their feet blistering with each step, as the crowd watched in morbid silence, waiting to see if the accused would emerge unscathed, or if the flames would claim them as their own. In medieval Europe, this was a common practice, particularly in the 12th century, where the Catholic Church played a significant role in shaping the judicial system. The ordeal by fire was often used to settle disputes, and the accused would be forced to undergo this trial, with the outcome determining their fate. The procedure was always the same. The accused would be led to a fire, usually a large bonfire, and would have to walk through the flames or grasp a hot iron, and if they emerged unscathed, they were deemed innocent. But if they were burned, or if their wounds became infected, they were guilty, and the consequences were severe. The use of water was also a common method, where the accused would be thrown into a river or a lake, and if they sank, they were innocent, but if they floated, they were guilty and would be put to death. This practice, known as the ordeal by water, was often used in cases of witchcraft, where the accused would be subjected to this trial, with the outcome determining their fate. The logic behind this method was that water was considered a pure element, and if the accused was guilty, they would be rejected by the water and would float to the surface. As the darkness closes in, the sound of gently lapping water and the soft crackle of flames become the only sounds, a reminder of the ordeals that were once used to decide the fate of those accused, a somber reminder of the darkness that lies at the heart of human history. The flames that shaped guilty minds still flicker in the darkness, a haunting reminder of the past and the methods that were used to determine guilt and innocence. As the darkness gathers around you, the shadows whisper tales of a time when the lines between guilt and innocence were drawn with fire and water, the elements that would decide the fate of those accused. You would have heard the crackle of flames, the hiss of steam, as the ordeals by fire and water were administered, a test of endurance, a trial by pain. I always come back to this one, the story of the burning that never stopped, a somber reminder of the unforgiving nature of justice in the past. In medieval Europe, the ordeal by fire was a common practice, where the accused would be forced to walk over hot coals or grasp a heated iron, their fate decided by the severity of the burns they suffered. The theory was that God would intervene, protecting the innocent from harm, while the guilty would be consumed by the flames. The practice was brutal, the outcome often arbitrary, yet it persisted, a testament to the desperation of a society seeking justice, no matter how flawed the method. The ordeal by water, on the other hand, was a more nuanced affair, where the accused would be thrown into a river or a pool, their fate decided by their ability to float or sink. The idea was that the water would reject the guilty, while the innocent would be buoyed up, their innocence proven by their ability to stay afloat. It was a cruel twist of fate, where the density of the body, rather than the weight of the soul, would decide the outcome. As you drift deeper into the night, the shadows grow longer, the silence more profound, and the whispers of the past grow louder, reminding you of the countless lives that were lost, the innocent who were consumed by the flames or dragged beneath the waves, their stories forgotten, their names lost to the passage of time. The burning that never stopped, a reminder of the darkness that lies at the heart of human history, a Sama reflection on the nature of justice and the enduring power of fear. And in this darkness, you find a strange, quiet solace, a sense of connection to the past, a reminder that even in the stillness of the night, the whispers of history never truly fade away. As you sink deeper into the darkness, the shadows of history begin to stir, and the faint whispers of a long-forgotten era start to echo through the silence, a time when the elements themselves were believed to hold the power to discern guilt from innocence, and the ordeal by water was a favored method of determining a person's fate. I always come back to this one, the way the water was thought to reject the guilty, to spit them back out, while the innocent would sink, their bodies accepting the liquid purification. It's a notion that seems almost absurd now, yet it was a belief that persisted for centuries, a dark reminder of the desperation that can drive human beings to seek justice in the most unlikely of places. In medieval Europe, the practice of ordeal by water was a common occurrence, with accused witches, thieves, and heretics being subjected to this brutal test, their bodies bound and thrown into a river or a lake, the outcome a supposed reflection of their guilt or innocence. You would have heard the sound of the water lapping against the shore, the murmurs of the crowd gathered to witness the spectacle, as the accused was led to the water's edge, their fate hanging precariously in the balance. The weight of the bindings would have been crushing, the water's chill a shock to the system, as the accused was submerged, their body either sinking or floating, the outcome a matter of life and death. The ritual was often performed with great ceremony, the local priest or lord presiding over the proceedings, as if to lend an air of legitimacy to the barbaric practice, the water itself seen as a symbol of purification, a way to cleanse the community of evil, to rid it of the perceived corruption that threatened to consume it. And yet, despite the brutality of the ordeal, there's a Sama quiet to it, a stillness that settles over the scene, as if the very gravity of the situation has stifled all sound, all movement, leaving only the slow, relentless passage of time, as the accused waits, suspended in the water, their fate all but sealed. The darkness closes in, the silence deepens, and the ordeal by water becomes just another forgotten relic of a darker past, a reminder of the horrors that human beings have inflicted upon each other, in the name of justice, of morality, of a twisted sense of right and wrong. As you sink deeper into the darkness, the shadows of the past begin to stir, whispering tales of a time when justice was meted out through the harshest of means, when the very elements themselves were summoned to decide the fate of the accused. I always come back to this one, the ordeal by fire, a test of endurance that pushed the human body to its limits and beyond. In medieval Europe, this gruesome practice was a common means of determining guilt or innocence, the accused forced to walk barefoot over hot coals or grasp a scorching iron, their fate hanging in the balance. You would have heard the soft murmur of prayers, the whispered invocations to a higher power, as the accused prepared to face the flames, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that their very survival depended on the will of the divine. The air was thick with tension, the smell of smoke and sweat hanging heavy over the assembled crowd as they watched, transfixed, the accused take their first steps into the heart of the fire. It was a moment of truth, a moment of reckoning, when the very fabric of reality seemed to bend and warp, as the accused struggled to maintain their footing, their cries echoing through the silence like the whispers of the damned. And yet, even as the flames danced and licked at their skin, there was a sense of detachment, a sense of removal, as if the accused had transcended the physical realm and entered a realm of pure, unadulterated pain. In the stillness of the night, the sound of dripping water can be a soothing balm, a gentle lullaby that rocks the soul into a peaceful slumber. But in the context of the ordeal by water, it was a different story altogether. The accused was bound and thrown into a river or a lake, their fate decided by the currents and the depths. If they sank, they were deemed guilty, their bodies dragged down into the dark, cold depths, where the silence was absolute, and the only sound was the soft lapping of the water against the shore. If they floated, they were innocent, their bodies buoyed up by the water, their lives spared, at least for the time being. It was a cruel, capricious system, one that relied on the whims of nature rather than the dictates of justice, and yet it was a system that endured, a testament to the darkness that lurked at the heart of human nature. As the darkness envelops you, the shadows cast by flickering flames seem to come alive, whispering tales of a bygone era where the lines between justice and cruelty were blurred, and the ordeals that decided guilt by fire and water held sway over the fate of the accused. You would have heard the crackle of burning wood, the hiss of scalding water, as the medieval world resorted to these primitive methods to determine the guilt or innocence of those who stood trial. I always come back to this one, the trial by fire, where the accused was forced to walk barefoot over hot coals or grasp a heated iron, their fate hanging in the balance, as the severity of their burns was thought to reveal their culpability. The practice, rooted in ancient customs, was particularly prevalent in the early Middle Ages, where the influence of the Church and the notion of divine intervention held sway over the judicial process. The ordeal by fire, also known as judicium ignis, was often reserved for serious crimes, such as murder, theft, or heresy, and was believed to be a means of invoking divine justice, where the accused's innocence or guilt would be revealed through their ability to withstand the flames unscathed. In some cases, the accused was required to carry a hot iron for a certain distance, or to plunge their arm into a cauldron of boiling water, the resulting injuries, or lack thereof, serving as a testament to their guilt or innocence. As the night wears on, the sounds of the fire, the murmurs of the crowd, the anguished cries of the accused, all seem to recede into the distance, leaving only the somber reflection on a judicial system that relied on such brutal methods to mete out justice. The use of ordeals began to decline in the 12th century, as the Catholic Church, under the influence of Pope Innocent Roman III, started to discourage the practice, citing its cruelty and the potential for false convictions. Yet the legacy of these trials by fire and water lingers, a haunting reminder of the darker aspects of human history, where the pursuit of justice was often overshadowed by the desire for retribution, and the accused was forced to endure unimaginable pain, in the name of a higher power. The shadows cast by the flickering flames seem to grow longer, the darkness deepening, as the weight of this Sama history settles in like the gentle fall of night, slowly, quietly, until all that remains is the soft glow of embers and the whispered tales of a bygone era. As you drift deeper into the darkness, the shadows of the past begin to stir, whispers of a time when the innocence of a person was determined by the most brutal of means, the ordeals by fire and water, a gruesome practice that echoes through the centuries, a haunting reminder of humanity's darkest hours. You would have heard the sound of sizzling flesh, the scent of charred skin as accused witches, heretics, and criminals were subjected to the fiery coals, their guilt or innocence decided by the severity of their burns, a twisted logic that defied compassion. In the icy waters of a river or lake, the accused was tossed, bound and helpless, their fate sealed if they sank, for it was believed that water would reject the guilty, while the innocent would be buoyed up, a macabre dance with death, where the outcome was far from certain. I always come back to this one, the ordeal by water, a practice so devoid of humanity. It's as if the darkness of the water mirrored the darkness of the human heart. As the night wears on, the silence is only broken by the distant lapping of waves, a soothing melody that belies the horrors that once took place. The cries of the accused, the murmurs of the crowd, all silenced now, leaving only the stillness of the night. The ordeals, a grim reminder of a time when fear and superstition reigned, when the rule of law was twisted and distorted, and the suffering of the innocent was a mere afterthought. In the quiet of the night, it's possible to reflect on the darkness that has shaped human history, the atrocities committed in the name of justice, the countless lives lost to the flames and the waters, their stories reduced to mere whispers in the wind. As the darkness deepens, it's a Sama reminder that even in the stillness of the night, the shadows of the past continue to haunt us, a gentle breeze that stirs the ashes of a long-forgotten era, a time when humanity was lost in a sea of suffering. The night air is filled with the weight of history, the soft rustling of leaves, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a sense of calm, a stillness that pervades, a sense of acceptance that comes with the passing of time.